Why the silliest person in the room is the best leader. By the end of this video or podcast, wherever you're watching or listening, you're going to have three tips to help you be the silliest person in the room, because the silliest person in the room is the best leader, and I'll explain that. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world, and I just want to thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. It really helps us to get the word out there to help more leaders to become the very best they can be. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that now. Why the silliest person is the best leader in the room. As human beings, we all want to belong, don't we? And so one of the things that's intrinsically, built into us that we do intuitively is we care about whether people like us. And that's a very natural thing to do. However, the funny thing about this that's counterintuitive is if you want to have deep relationships, if you want to have great intimacy in your close relationships, whether that's with a spouse, whether that's with your best friends, whether that's in your family, with your siblings, the truth is that intimacy comes from vulnerability. And what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is actually the fact that we put ourselves out there into a place where we could get hurt. And so I talk about this idea of the silliest person in the room is the best leader, because I want to encourage you as a leader and I want to challenge you. How silly are you willing to look for your people? How silly are you willing to look in front of your people? And if you go, oh, not at all, I couldn't look silly, then this is the challenge. Because if you will embrace a willingness to look silly in front of your people and to not care about that, if you can learn that and unlearn the habits of trying to protect my image with my people, then you'll go a long way to being a better leader, because the silliest person in the room is the best leader. And so I want to give you three tips. The first thing I want to give you, the first tip I want to give you is I don't know. I don't know, such a powerful phrase. For you as a leader, I want to encourage you to go into your meetings, go into your leadership meetings, sit down in your one-on-ones and prepare the words, I don't know. I don't know that. The other way that I want to encourage you to use this is when you're in a meeting and someone says something that you don't know, pipe up. There's such a part of us that goes, oh, it'll be too embarrassing to admit. No one else has said they don't know what that means. But pipe up, because what you're doing is, yes, someone who's insecure might think to themselves, oh, I can't believe they didn't know that. But the people that really matter, that you want to build up, that you want to lead really well, your best people, they'll see the vulnerability in that moment to go, I don't know what that means. And that vulnerability, you're actually moving a step towards more intimacy in your team so that you can work better together and achieve more results. That's the first thing. The second thing, in terms of this idea of the silliest person in the room, is I want you to come up with silly ideas. Patrick Lencioni, my favorite leadership author and consultant, talks about this time when he was consulting to an organization, and finance is not his strength. It's not an area of knowledge for him. And these guys were talking finance, and he was there working with them. And as they were chatting about this, which really isn't his area, so once again, he could very well look very silly in this area because it's not his area of strength. He had this thought and he decided, you know what, I'm just going to share it, even though it could be a really silly idea. And he said, guys, based on what you're saying, have you thought about going public and actually having, becoming a public company and having shares? And they looked at each other and there was a pause. And these two C-suite people went, that's a really good point. No, maybe we should do that. And they ended up going public, and it was a great success story. However, 9 out of 10 times you will look silly. So embrace it, say the silly thing, because 1 out of 10 times it'll be a game changer. And the silliest person in the room is the best leader, because it's that vulnerability, that willingness to look silly that's so endearing. And so the third thing that I want to encourage you to do is with your junior leaders, the newest person on your team, the youngest person on the team, go out of your way to look silly in front of them. Go out of your way to let your guard down and to tell them, something you don't know, to share a story of how you stuffed up. Let down your guard. Be okay with the fact that you might look a bit silly to them. Put yourself out there. Yes, you could get hurt, and you will. But what you'll also do is you'll be investing in your leadership and in your team and in your organization. Because as a person who's willing to look silly, you are learning to be more vulnerable, and great leaders do vulnerability really well because it's the pillar of a healthy team and a healthy organization. If this has helped you to get clear on anything in your leadership, then comment wherever you're watching or listening with the word clarity. And thank you again for following, subscribing, liking, sharing. It helps us to get the word out so that we can help more leaders to become the very best they can be. And if you haven't done that yet, if you could please subscribe or follow, that would be awesome. And thanks for spending time with me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to catching you next time. Cheers.